Me, I'm like, no, I'm good right here.
Whatever, Julie, thanks.
Come on over, Julie.
Hey, I did shower this morning. I'm not really sure
There you
what's
go.
going on
Okay,
here.
yeah. Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Alumni Field Renovation and Design Advisory Committee meeting, Monday, September 19th. It's 8:05, we're just getting underway. Our proposed agenda tonight is call the meeting to order. We'll open with public input, as we have in the past. We're looking into alumni field design and priority discussion with John Perry, who's here from Gale Associates. I think we'll probably not get into approval of minutes. Sheila's having some printer problems, so we'll do
But you
that
didn't
the next
approve last
meeting.
week either.
Yeah, I owe you minutes.
Okay, so we'll do that, both sets at the next meeting.
Okay.
We'll schedule our next meeting. We'll have another opportunity for public input, and then we'll adjourn. So the crux of the meeting tonight is the public input and the opportunity to meet Mr. Perry and kind of talk to him about our priorities and get an understanding of what Gale's all about. All right, so as we open most of our meetings, an opportunity for public input. Anybody that would like to be heard, please just identify yourself and your address. Anyone? Young lady in the front?
Erica Podgorny, Fox Lane. I was just wondering if Rep from Gale could tell us a little bit about how much grass you do, how much synthetic you do in terms of like the last, I don't know, 5 years or so. What is the percentage of fields you design?
Can I ask that when we get into the discussion about him doing an introduction about Gale and that kind of thing, that you could incorporate that?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Sure. Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, he's coming on now, so remember that question, because you're... All right, so as far as the discussion with priorities with John, I'd like for John to have an opportunity to kind of introduce himself and introduce Gale Associates to us, to the Afrac committee, as well as to the public at large. And hopefully you can incorporate Erica's question into your answer. And if we have any questions, we'll fire away when you have an opportunity.
All right, so, again, my name's John Perry. I'm from Gale Associates. I'm a civil engineer, and we specialize in...
Try to get one of these as close to you as possible, John.
There we go. So, yeah, my group in the civil engineering group at Gale, we specialize in athletic fields and in courts and tracks and et cetera, all around New England and along the East Coast. And we were fortunate enough to be selected as the designer for the Alumni field project, which we just met about a half an hour ago with the building committee downstairs to review our contract, and they've given us a verbal notice to proceed the survey and getting going on our upfront task items. We did interview with some folks about 2-3 weeks ago now. At that meeting, we did bring some materials with us, and some of you have seen the boards up on the wall there. Those were kind of very preliminary ideas of how we could orient the site and master plan it. And again, they were spent a couple of days kind of thinking about those without really knowing too much about the program. So we're definitely looking for some input tonight, priorities, community involvement. We have a meeting scheduled for next Wednesday to kind of really get into the weeds and some of that stuff. But again, to answer the question from before, at Gale we do natural turf fields, we do synthetic turf fields, we do tennis courts, we do basketball courts, we do tracks. What else is there? I guess softball fields, baseball fields, stadiums, grandstands, etc. Parking lots, civil site engineering, utilities, you name it. So, I don't have the exact percentages. The question was asked before, what percentage versus natural grass versus synthetic turf do we do? I don't have the exact percentages. We certainly do both. We're not, synthetic turf salesmen. We don't really have a dog in the fight either way. We're, engineers and designers. So, our compensation isn't tied to one or the other. We do certainly do a fair amount of synthetic turf consulting. And that really relates back to what the user needs and what they ultimately want. And a lot of the towns that we've been working for, are space challenged. You only have so much land in the town, and you have lots and lots of program for athletes on these fields. And if you have football and lacrosse and soccer and field hockey and youth sports and Pop Warner and camps and et cetera on the field, and most towns really have no choice other than to do synthetic turf, because no matter how well you maintain a grass field, you're just not going to keep up with it. So we have been doing probably a fair amount of synthetic turf field for those reasons. But we did we did the Mass Youth Soccer Complex out in Lancaster, which is 16 total fields, 12 of them are natural grass. We do a lot of natural grass baseball fields, a lot of natural grass multi-purpose fields. Typically the main game stadium for a school or a town tends to be synthetic turf because of the reasons I mentioned before. So, we'll see where we end up here. I think the idea, at least initially, is that the stadium field will likely be synthetic surface, and that the jet field, I'm assuming kind of up front again, without having gotten into any real discussions yet, may end up being natural grass, but we'll see where the numbers work out and what the budget works out to be, and that's kind of where we're here, I think. Again, we're going to get started tomorrow on surveying the site and delineating wetlands, and then we'll kind of take it from there. We've been we're going to take it through schematic design to get some budget numbers for the town to take to town meeting in November, I want to say it is. And then once we have that town meeting, then we'll proceed there with bidding and construction, hopefully, next spring into the summertime. That's I guess that's the global, summarization of what we're up to right now. So, any questions on any of that?
Any questions from the board? Anything specific, Julie? Shelley, you good?
Yep.
Good. John? Michael?
Yep, fine, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so kind of diving right into our priority list. Shelley, you said you just sent that to me?
I did, I sent it, so you should have it.
Should I sit up here?
Yeah, okay. It's probably better for the folks at home. They'll be able to hear you a little bit better from in front of you.
Okay. Take notes.
Perfect.
Right here.
So we kind of, for our scope of work, we tiered it somewhat. Thanks, Mike. And we had kind of the core, which was to remove the crown and create a level playing surface as kind of the top priority. Thank you. Yeah, I can see.
Can you read that?
Yeah. There's a white screen there. I'm okay with this. It's just
You want these
my
notes from last week?
I got my notes here. This is fine. Thank you. Design a field space and dimensions to accommodate high school level competition for field hockey, football, soccer boys and girls, lacrosse boys and girls. And as you mentioned, we have graduation on that field annually, potentially camps, family night. There's a Russell Street cookout that's going on Jet Field this week. Not a cookout, a picnic. It's, kind of a little back-to-school night. It has a picnic prior to it. So, multi-use. And we're charged with costing for both synthetic and natural turf options, and potentially a hybrid grass that Julie had mentioned at one point in time, that wanted to see kind of what that would cost out at. That it can include crumb rubber. Sideline and bench areas for teams, as well as space for the cheer team. So right now, they're limited between the bleachers and those metal poles that are just behind the home sideline. So we'd like to create more space there for the cheer team in front of the bleacher area. The existing softball field must be incorporated into the project, either in the current location or reorienting it or moving it to another location. Beyond that, kind of the second tier, I will go to Sheila's notes here because I trust that she did a better job taking the notes than I did. So I apologize while I bring this up. Bleachers is certainly next on the priorities. And so one of the things that we kind of implied was that anything that you do relative to the field or to the bleachers is going to be ADA compliant. So
Yep.
that's kind of the unstated in that first tier. Concessions,
Is that in the first tier priorities?
it isn't, so the first tier, and I can send this to you as well, John, so you don't have to jot it all down, but I'm just going to read down it. So we had that kind of the first core, ADA compliant bleachers and seating, sideline bench areas, cheerleading area, softball field, either in place or replaced, concessions, bathrooms or rough plumbing, electrical, 4 bathroom facilities if we're not able to get bathrooms into this renovation. Ticket booth, possibility of using one that was recently donated either as a ticket booth or somewhere else on the site, or maybe we incorporate a new ticket booth at an entrance area, something like what you have here would be conducive to one traffic flow, whether it be a ticket area and a gated area. Security system tying in to the schools, green construction, press box, which would incorporate sound system and control board. Cost usage, maintenance, grass versus synthetic, I mentioned. All right, so the second tier would be expanding the equipment/maintenance storage. And there's the possibility that we could attach that if we do a concession building, that we make the concession building larger to accommodate storage for maintenance and beyond. Parking, traffic flow, fencing. Now, fencing, we understand, is a necessity, it's implied, but the quality depends upon the budget. In the first rendering that we had from Mr. Reardon from Tetra Tech, he had piered pillars and, the aluminum wrought iron looking fencing, which looked beautiful, but not sure it would fit into the budget. Lighted walkways, potential for locker rooms or covered areas.
And that's on tier 3 as well.
Yeah, so locker rooms and covered areas fall into tier 3.
Not covered areas was.
We had them in both
Yeah,
because,
we can supplement them both.
Okay.
only because if one doesn't, then
They're
how
all-
can we, if we had to pare them down, we could get them onto tier 2.
I mean, I guess that would mean that if money were no object and we could get locker rooms, that would be fantastic, but
If we can't get locker rooms, then some sort of a covered spot for the teams to go under if it's raining or
correct, halftime,
something like that.
that kind of thing, yeah.
Band, too.
Pardon?
The bands, too, with their instruments
Right.
was the other
Yep.
thought.
Replacing or updating the existing lighting. Signage. We discussed that it's likely going to be signage to, no sports drinks on a synthetic surface, that kind of thing, if that were where we went. How to use, just the rules of the field.
Yeah, and that's very inexpensive in the overall.
Yeah.
I mean, signs like that, no Gatorade on the field, no dogs in the field, no
Sunflower seeds.
no golf, things like,
Yeah.
And
fireworks, So, things like fairly easy signs.
I understand that, but
You think they're
it's
sensitive, but
another day, another talk for another day.
The other possibility for signage is potential if we did a gate area, perhaps signage for the
An
stadium
entrance,
itself.
like an entrance statement to let everyone know this is where you go.
This is Alumni, yeah.
Yep.
And then bus parking
For like athletic,
for teams
Teams.
coming in, yeah. Those were the priorities. So I think it's relatively straightforward. We're looking to do a renovation, we're looking to create a safer, more playable get more usage out of the current field.
Mhm.
We're also looking to be able to accommodate people in safe seating that's ADA compliant, place a press box, get a concession stand, and then everything else that goes along with it.
Yep, and no surprises with any of that, I don't think. And, so I guess to define the process that we're gonna go through, just so everyone's up to speed with that, is, we're, like I said, we're doing the survey this week, and hopefully we'll have it all drafted up, so that way we can start, for our meeting next week, we can start actually putting real dimensions on the plan, seeing what we can fit. I don't know that we'll have, I don't know that we want to have cost estimates done before our meeting next week, because that's more like an information session. We can come with some, we'll come with some real conceptual ideas, like, hey, here's how we can actually make all this work. Here are where the lights are, we can save, we'll know that sort of thing, I think.
Okay.
And then we'll get information, and then we'll take that information and we'll go back to the office and we'll incorporate that. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back with a scheme or two with cost estimates, and we can kind of prioritize based on what the plan looks like and what the cost estimates are. We'll have everything broken out, everything will have its own line item. So we'll be able to see, if we come in with a $3.5, $4 million project, hey, this is great, but we probably can't do it. So what do we want to take out? What do we want to prioritize? And maybe this can be like phase 2. Maybe we can do that, 2 years from now. And we can just, things like that. What can we do as a bid alternate in case the bids are really good? We're going to go through that whole cyclical process until we nail down what the actual schematic plan wants to be up front. And we'll nail down the cost estimate for that as well.
Okay.
I'm likely going to bring our architect next week with us as well, so we can talk about the building a little bit, the building program. I know in the RFP, it was team rooms and concessions, and obviously concessions, restrooms, that's the priority, and then team rooms, and I think there were some other things kind of built into that as well. So we're all going to go through that. What are the real needs, and how are we going to use this building, sort of thing. Maybe the way that we can phase the building too. Maybe we can't get storage now, but maybe we can kind of build it on after, or something like that. So we'll go through all that in a very detailed manner.
We should add something. We didn't put it in the priority list, but I think we kind of mentioned it somewhat in passing. There are existing buildings there now. If there's any way to repurpose those buildings.
Primarily, we're talking about the admission tickets is a new building that's in pretty good shape. The other buildings are.
Yeah, but if they had to stay and we could use them for storage.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
if
I guess, and then we'd have to build them. The press boxes can have to be demolished.
repurpose that. But the concession building is.
Park a
It's not
lawnmower?
bad.
The press box?
It's not why we don't anymore.
It's just storage, yeah. So, just kind of keep that in
Okay.
mind when you're doing your
Yep.
schematic.
Yeah, we will.
So you're gonna have the existing conditions plan basically complete this before our next meeting, and so you'll be able to, like, if there are site challenges or anything like that, you'll
Yeah.
know that. And are you gonna test for the arsenic belt, since we're on the border of that?
Not.
Does it matter?
We weren't gonna do that with this phase. We're gonna do some
Oh,
test
so maybe
pits
in
to
the
check.
future.
Yeah, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do test pits out there to, classify the soils for drainage capabilities, basically, and just make sure there's no unsuitables that we find. And then when we move beyond schematic, we'll hire a geotech engineer if we need to get an LSP involved, or things like that. We can test for.
You're gonna I'm assuming you're gonna bore to groundwater to see if we have like a high water table,
Yeah,
things of that
we'll
nature.
be able to see that, I would assume, with the test pits initially.
Yep.
And the reason that we're holding back on doing like the geotech and borings is because we want to make sure that we know, if we're doing new lights or
Where you're building.
where the bleachers are really going to go, and we're going to do borings right in those exact spots.
Okay,
So we'll do those at a later date.
so it's to get a basic characterization.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we, do our due diligence now so that we can do proper cost estimates. and then we know that we can make it all work. And then we'll really kind of get into the nuts and the bolts after the schematic phase with the geotech and foundations and things like that.
Okay.
But we're going to do the survey. We're going to delineate wetlands. We're going to have, the light department and the water department mark out their utilities. We have record plans that we've gotten from the facilities director. So we're going to incorporate all of that into the existing conditions drawing as well.
Okay. The only thing, thinking about the synthetic versus the natural, well, from your perspective as someone who's done, dozens of projects, the answer might be fairly clear to you. We need to do a comparison, and the comparison, has to be the initial installation, maintenance, replacement, and usage, potential usage. We'll decide based on that whether we decide as a committee and as a community if we're going to scale back usage because we think natural is the right way to go for whatever reason, or not, as the case may be. But we got to be able to weigh, compare, and contrast both opportunities. So.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do that cost analysis. We've done that for dozens and dozens of other towns as well, because it's relatively the same discussion process that we go through, at least in the public forum.
Yeah.
There's always people who are weary about synthetic turf, and there are people who are for it, and I think it's a good educational process for everyone from both sides of it, and we'll do the cost analysis, and we can help this committee through the pros and cons from an environmental standpoint. We've already, I think, made the decision to not use crumb rubber because there was some hesitancy for that, so we can help this committee decide what infill we're going to use, if it is a synthetic product. So, yep, we'll hit on all those topics for sure.
And
Right up top.
we have the 50 ppm lead limit too, which is the California standard, so I'm assuming any manufacturer is presumably able to meet that pretty easily anyways. If they're selling in
all of the top tier synthetic turf manufacturers now will certify that it's lead free. It's really the when you get into the crumb rubber, you have a little bit of a lead concern because there is some lead traces in it.
It's heterogeneous too.
It can't really leach out of the lead of the rubber, but there are, if you soak it in acid and things like this, that you can come out. But it's really the synthetic turf fiber. Our spec calls for 0 lead, and all the good turf manufacturers do 0 lead.
Do you know of any studies that tell you what grass can take? Because I hear a lot like, grass can't take this, grass can't take that, or you're going to have to put, like say, more input than you're willing to put to make grass work. Do you know like where that information is? Because other than like some comparisons from the Sports Turf Managers Association, I don't know if anybody else has found it, but like what can grass take? Like I don't feel like I have a baseline for that, so I'm I'm having a hard time.
Our experience, and it's working with dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of local municipalities with field studies. We do a lot of master plan studies, and so we will work with a town to evaluate all of the parcels and all of the fields that they have. And typically what we do is we quantify the uses on all of them to see how many uses there are, and if it's overused, can you shift things around, or do you need to add more fields, or do you need to go to synthetic or something like that to basically triple your allowable usage on that field.
Sure.
So we have a really good idea for how fields stand up with various types of maintenance as well, because some fields you don't spend any money on, some fields you spend $25,000 on. So if we see a field that they're spending good money on, and they've got 300, 400 uses, and they can't keep up with it no matter what they do, that's pretty typical.
Sure.
So in our experience,
So 300 to 400 uses?
well, it's more like 250 to 300
Okay.
is kind of the max.
Okay.
If you're using it for football,
Yeah, and, yeah, I mean, I know it's hard to compare apples to apples too, because every
Yeah.
town has,
Different
and then
different
if
use
you're playing
and
like,
different
you know, if
input,
you're playing
and that's
underage
probably why I
soccer
can't
on
find the
it,
data.
you're probably in the more like the 350 to 400 range. If
Sure.
you're playing football on it every day, you're probably,
Probably
you know,
less.
yeah, or lacrosse, you're way less than that. A huge thing too is, what is your rain policy? Because if it rains and you do anything on a grass field,
Yeah,
you're gonna kill it.
Yep.
You've gotta wait until it's nice and dry to use it, no matter what you do.
Is there anything? Good.
So, I mean, we're excited to get the survey done so we can start, you know, obviously the plan that we did for the interview process, I think was a great, you know, start to kind of get some jump off thinking ideas. Just before we all met here, you know, we were kind of huddled around, so I have some good, you know, new ideas based on some of that as well. We're gonna bring, like I said, you know, another concept or two with us next week, and at that point, we'll get all the feedback, and then we'll be able to start doing some real planning right now. So that's the goal.
Sounds good.
So
And,
next week you'll bring conceptual ideas and then we'll have a chance to react to those.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're gonna bring some conceptual ideas so that we can, as a group, see what fits.
Yeah.
What is realistic to make.
But
work
without
here.
costs.
Right. Yeah.
You'll
we're
have
not-
a little bit of an idea.
Yeah, well, probably, I mean, I know kind of what things cost,
You can
per
rough
item, so
You
we
won't be
can-
able to line item it, but you may be able to give us a rough
Yeah, I
estimate.
think so.
Okay.
I think so. At least we can say this one's more expensive than that.
And then the next iteration would be line item, broken down.
Yeah,
After we made some
exactly.
decisions, and you've seen some realizations based on the site plan, you'll rule some things out, and some things will clearly be, you know, conceivable, then you'll be able to cost it out.
Exactly. Yep. And then we'll come in with a, you know, an actual plan with a cost estimate, and then we'll
What's
get more
the,
feedback, and then we'll refine it.
The elapsed time between, so, we meet next week, we set some ground rules, and we've got the site plan. What's the timeline for the schematics with the costs on them?
I'm gonna bring a detailed milestone schedule next
Okay.
week. We're gonna do that as our, I think that the first probably 45 minutes or so will be typical startup items, just, you know, status of contract and what we've accomplished in the last few days. We'll go through the schedule, points of contact, all that boring stuff, and then we'll kind of hop into the exciting stuff, which is kind of the planning and the information session. So I'll bring a very detailed schedule this next week. From memory, we need to have everything done, a schematic plan and cost estimate by October 26th, I want to say the date was.
October 26th.
For print, yeah.
Yeah.
October
so-
20th, I thought.
Yeah, or earlier, because isn't your meeting on the 24th? And that's a Monday?
I have that folder with me.
But the print was October 27th.
The early 20s,
Yeah.
probably.
I think the
We meet
drop dead.
October 18th,
I have in my
we
head the
meet
26th
October
is good.
12th, we meet October 4th. We're scheduled for next,
Yeah,
the
12th,
27th.
Well, you're gonna bring your detailed milestone
figure it out
plan,
next
and Chuck will bring his detailed milestone plan for town meeting.
We made it yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Let me know when the last date is for the schematic plan and cost estimate.
We can let you know that.
We'll work it from there. I want to say it was the 26th, but if it's the 20th, we'll figure it out.
That's November 4th.
I think it's 12. I want to say it's 27th, but,
Yeah. I think so too.
And what is the 27th, what's the?
Thursday.
Yeah,
that's the
Oh,
last time we can go to print.
For the
It's a
warrant.
Thursday.
But don't you have to discuss it with the selectmen?
It's on the 24th, right?
We'll have a good idea before
That's what I
that.
thought, set, the.
Yeah, it's not gonna be, hey, a surprise, here's the, you know, plan and estimate. It's gonna be a work in progress through then, so. That's gonna be kind of the final number. We'll be getting numbers back from, we do all of our cost estimating for the site portion, the fields and parking and walkways, everything in-house, and we have a professional cost estimator on the team for the building component of it. So we'll be getting those numbers back. That's going to be, that's kind of the thing that I need to hit on our end, is getting the numbers back from them for that date. So we need to kind of take that and work back on our end.
So the cost estimator, you said for the building component, you mean like just for the structures, not the horizontal?
Right,
portion?
we'll
Okay.
be doing that along the way.
Okay,
you
and so
know.
that's something that you have the cost for the horizontal
Yeah,
features? Got it.
Exactly,
Okay.
and we have good cost estimates for the buildings as well. We just wanted to make sure we have them on a team so we can get, a second set of eyes on it, and so they're the professionals, obviously, with the vertical construction, so. We've done, a handful of these buildings, similar buildings recently, so we have good square footage numbers, but we wanted something a little bit better than square footage numbers for this exercise.
So you saw the rendering that Tetra Tech did for us as a gift in kind. You've given us another option with Jet Field, spelled with one T, not two. The option still is available to us to do something on that field to the right of the middle
Right.
school where Tetra Tech did it. I don't know if that's going to be cost prohibitive or not, but just, again, to just put something in your cap.
Yeah, I think,
Just as a consideration.
what is the,
I'd rather you know everything that's possible.
I guess ideally, do we want to keep it at Alumni Field on this site, or does it not really matter?
There's some emotional connection to it, so there are people that absolutely want to keep it on, they want to keep it exactly where it is, but keeping it on Alumni Field would certainly,
Yeah, I think all the renditions that we looked at coming into the interview were trying to keep it on at Alumni Field, because we think it can fit. We can move it out back, but then you have to film the detention basin, you've got to do a lot of drainage work, and it's probably more cost prohibitive than keeping it here. I think ideally, we keep it, if it fit, again, we got to do the survey and just kind of verify everything, but I think, moving it away, it opens up a lot of space for a bunch of nice stuff, but I don't know if it's great use of space, you know what I mean? It
Just
seems to be
open space.
more, if we can get it to work, kind of how we've shown here, you've used your space efficiently, I think.
Well, and we'd still need to fix the crown on Alumni so we can use it, because it's not being utilized.
Moving a
as it was.
softball field wouldn't preclude us from
Oh,
that.
softball, I thought you were talking about
No.
moving like
No,
higher.
no, just a
Okay,
softball.
well, I was like thinking outside the box. That's all right.
but yeah. Different
We
thoughts.
can move
Well,
Alumni
you'd want to keep it
completely
there
over and
because
then
you'd want to
fix
benefit
the.
from concessions and walkways and all those things. You
Ideally,
don't want to double up on
yeah,
that.
And parking and
Right.
lighting and.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah, especially as just before the meeting started, some folks were pointing out, geez, if we could add a couple of lights and maybe have some night softball games, and
That
to
would
your
be
point,
great.
if we could have concessions for the night softball games and.
Because I believe that facility is being used by
Club teams.
some like fall club teams, right? It's
Right.
being
Over
used.
the summer.
it's,
Right.
Fair amount,
There might be actually rental opportunities too.
Right.
Exactly.
Perfect, yeah. Yeah, so
So we'll try, I mean, again,
disregard,
we'll try
Hold
to
back
keep it
40.
there.
get back inside my box.
I would emphasize moving that entrance.
Moving the entrance from where the rendering is right there?
Yeah.
It's
I
not gonna go-
mean, certainly, we've mentioned this, that there's a playground there,
Yeah.
that whole area is the Russell Street recess area.
Yeah, and I walked the
It's
site
sacred.
today before the PMBC meeting too, and,
It's a good idea, but.
yeah, I guess if, I wasn't fully aware of just how prominent that playground area was in the basketball courts when we did this, and the idea with doing the one that we were showing here was that we would rebuild that space somewhere, showing the playground, we could rebuild the basketball court somewhere, so we didn't want to lose any of that, but, it might be cost prohibitive to redo that somewhere else.
And it's nice to have that plaza area where, everybody gathers. It would be fantastic, but unless we were able to relocate those amenities contiguous to the school?
I like the idea of trying to move the building in the plaza area up to the, kind of top right between the field,
The left
Or
field
even,
wall?
see where the trees are, you have those trees? Yes,
yeah, well, exactly.
that'd be nice.
Right, that's kind of central to both parking areas, and so we're gonna, again, we're gonna play with this.
Back of the wall could be like the green monster, put a concession stand.
You let the guy do his job.
I'm sorry. Idea.
Actually put luxury boxes on.
Luxury boxes, exactly.
Yeah, add on to it.
Does he know anything about the bathroom?
Rich on that?
That would be for the volunteers.
No.
Rich on that, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess one of the downsides to concessions being over there with the bleachers being on where they currently are is you still have the same area that you have to travel in order to get to the bathrooms that we have now with the porta potties, but that might be, as long as we've got better pathways in order to get to them, I think it'll be a lot easier for people to get there.
Yeah, well,
But again, we'll let you do your job.
yeah, we'll do some thinking on that. We'll figure it out. All right.
Anybody up here have anything else before I ask for public input? You guys are good? Anybody have any input? Rebecca?
The playground, I'm just wondering, has anyone talked to Russell Street about that? Because the kids don't just play on the playground, they also play on the field around there.
And I pointed it out
Okay.
to John, and yes, I've spoken with Scott Pizzillo, and that is a sacred area.
Yeah,
So again, this was a rendering that they came into us without having had that conversation. But I appreciate you bringing that up. It is definitely something that he would not be happy to lose.
the other thing was, I know that, we've had some discussions about the plumbing code in the bathrooms, and I'm just wondering if you could give us a rough number of what you think would be required for something this size, and is that tied into concessions? If we have concessions, do we have to have the bathrooms?
So I think that goes back to our own building inspector, right? That's kind of the ruling authority there. Am I correct in making that assumption?
Yeah,
There's a state code.
There's a code that ties the amount of restrooms you need to the seats. If you have X amount of seats, then you need X amount of bathrooms.
But there's also interpretation of the code of what type of facility it actually is. Because a stadium has a particular code, and if it's, and a stadium means, and that's where people are struggling across the state with the definition of stadium. So I think Chuck's right. I think this is going to be more of a discussion along, a local discussion with our inspectors to determine where does this fall into the building code. If it doesn't fall into the stadium building code, then we don't have to worry about the stadium plumbing requirements. If it does, then we do. If it falls not in the stadium and it falls into a school facility, then we're going to be beholden to that code. So I think we need to figure that out from a community
Yeah, so the
perspective.
local inspectors have, they have some discretion as to how they interpret some of this stuff. So I think we'll have to have a meeting with those folks and work those numbers out.
And some of them have been able to use adjacent buildings, the bathrooms in adjacent buildings, and so it is a local, I don't mean to kick the can down the road, Erica, but it is a local decision that we're going to have once we kind of get a design, probably a week or two out. Have to sit down with our own plumbing inspector and say, hey, what is your interpretation? What do we need to design for here? Is that fair to say?
And actually, while we're on bathrooms, we did get some feedback about, from someone from the community asking about, like a family bathroom or an ADA, disabled, family neutral, gender bathroom. So that was.
That's a good idea.
So if we could,
We should
like,
try to
just-
think about that.
Yeah,
Yep, absolutely. We're already.
that in with the restroom discussion.
Definitely, no, that's a good point to bring up. We've already had that kind of discussion. We have that discussion with kind of all these buildings, and it's becoming more prevalent, nowadays with it's neutral, gender neutral, things like this. But if you also want just a family bathroom and
The changing table.
yeah, exactly. I have 2 little kids, so I know those are huge. So
Eric, you good? For now? Anybody else? Go.
I'm sorry, I missed a couple of meetings. What is the number of seats?
You just state your name, please, and your address.
Kevin Davis. And how many seats were we supposed to be for the bleachers?
Yeah, just state your address, please.
Whitetail Way.
Thank
How many
you.
seats for the bleachers?
We haven't discussed that yet. The RFP had a number in there, was it?
7.
Yeah. The idea is that it would be at least as big as it is right now, wouldn't be any smaller. Talking to the AD, he hasn't indicated that he feels it needs to be any bigger. You know, typically, the only time that we're overflow is if we host a Thanksgiving Day game or we have a really big playoff game. Everything else, we're fine with the capacity as it is.
So we'll measure up the existing bleachers and figure out how many people it sits. And we'll approximate how many it sits, and we'll kind of get based off of that.
The rendering that we got from Mr. Reardon, I believe, assumed 750.
Yeah, which is a pretty good number. That's, Linfield High School, we did that project 2 years ago, and they have 750, give or take. That's their main stadium.
On one sideline, just on the home
On
side.
the home, yeah. Yeah, we did Narragansett High School down in Rhode Island, and they have, I think, 750 is one, maybe 800. It's a good sized system, you know, I mean, and there are some schools who want to do 1,500 to 2,000, which is great if you can fill those seats, but a lot of schools say, look, we need, 700 to 1,000.
How many seats, what's the seat threshold to keep us out of neutral site territory? Do you know offhand?
Say again?
MIAA.
Yeah, keep us out of neutral site territory with MIA. What's the seat threshold for that?
I don't have that answer off the top of my head, yeah. I can get that.
I think that's something we're, I know.
That's probably up to Mike anyways, whether we're.
I just know there's an interest there. I just thought I'd bring it up. while we're
Well, yeah, the
talking.
problem is, I think that, the problem is, if you are over the limit, it's not like you can tell the MIA no. If they come knocking on your door, you kind of got to tell them yes.
Right, that's what.
You know, so the trick is to not get over the limit so that they won't come knocking on your door in the first place.
All right, I see what you're getting at. I want to say you need 1,000 seats to host a,
For lacrosse, it's 1,000. I don't know about
I think for football it is as well, but I'll look at that number.
Okay.
We want to stand to that threshold.
Probably. I don't think we need to be at the,
Might wanna
there's no
clarify it.
real, there's no real reason to be at the threshold, I don't think.
Right.
From a community perspective, but we'll confirm that with our AD too and see what he's thinking. I mean, I think I know what he's thinking, but we'll ask him one more time.
Doesn't seem to be a winning proposition. Although if we do all the concessions, maybe it'll sell cotton candy.
It's great if people would volunteer. Sorry, just had to say that.
We could ask other.
Public service announcement by Sheila Gish from Lava. You good, Kevin?
Yeah, sure.
Anybody else have any public input? Questions? Deb, you good? All right. Any of the committee members have any other
I
questions?
came a little late. Is next Wednesday, is that a PMBC meeting?
So next Wednesday is a PMBC meeting. I believe we're posted for the 27th, but I think that it's,
Are we going to try to maybe do
I
a
thought
joint
we
meeting with
were
them?
going to try to do a joint meeting
Okay.
with PMBC.
Okay. I think that would be great. I think we should try for that.
Yeah.
So now, meeting on the 27th.
Well, let's figure it out.
So
Let's
right
talk to
now, we're
PMBC
scheduled to
and-
meet on the 27th, but there's no, I mean, if John's going to be here on the 28th for kind of the kickoff meeting from the PMBC,
Yeah.
I think that kickoff meeting should be joint between the Afrac committee and the PMBC to kind of introduce John to the public, have an open forum.
He doesn't have to drive all over the place.
Twice.
Save me a trip.
Yeah, that's
Thinking of
true,
you.
too.
Thanks.
I can't come on the 27th.
So as far as scheduling next meeting then, does the 28th pose any problems for anybody?
That's Wednesday, right?
It's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
Next week.
So we went with the 27th
I
because
won't be
PMBC.
there, but
I
I
might
can't be
be-
there.
I
That's
might
when you
be
want to do
slightly-
it.
Happy anniversary.
I'll be slightly late if it's at 7,
Okay,
same as last week.
all right.
Let's try for it.
I think it's,
The first, like I said, the first half hour, 45 minutes are going to be pretty administrative, I think. So I'm not going to get into the weeds until a little bit later in the meeting, probably.
good for Julie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking 10 minutes, not, or however late I was last time. I'm not talking
Yeah.
half an hour.
Okay. Do you have any questions for us as far as understanding where we're coming from, what we're looking for, what's in bounds, what's out of bounds?
Literally or figuratively.
No, no. It's a lot of good information and, direction, and we've got some good work to do in the next week or so to get ready, and then after that, we're excited.
Buckle up.
Yeah, we're excited. It's gonna be a short fuse, and we're gonna nail it and knock it out of the park, and hopefully everyone's happy.
Good deal.
Excellent.
Good, John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, guys. All right. Yeah. No problem.
I think we're just looking to schedule it on the 28th, joint meeting with PNBC. Everybody's good with that? I'll post.
I'll let you know.
Check the police station on that,
Thank you.
28th, check for the police station.
We're going to have PNBC come there?
Where's,
Well, versus what?
Where do they
We're gonna
start?
come here. If they're in 103, why don't we do it in 103?
We can do 103, or we can do the police station.
I think 103 is better than the police station.
All right.
If they were going to be here, I would tell you to go to the police station.
so is that all they're doing next week? Is this kickoff, or do they
Yes.
have other stuff? Okay.
It's up to you. You want-
Want to see if it's available, please?
You said please.
So we seeing
Chairman?
maybe in 103, maybe at the police station?
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Figure it out.
Will PNBC move to the police
Melissa, I'm sorry.
Make the
Didn't
meetings
include you in
harder.
change, meeting change. I
Oh,
apologize.
it's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay, you're good.
You figured it out.
All right, we don't have any minutes to approve. Everybody's good, public input? All
I have
right,
a question besides just the kickoff. Are we having anybody else come in? Any more stakeholders come in? We did mention something about the coaches.
we mentioned the coaches. I think we mentioned Erin Healy would come in for sustainability.
What I'd like to do is hear John's milestone schedule next week, and
Okay.
that may tell us what we can and can't do.
Okay.
Because there may be blocks where they're busy and they're not going to be with us in a
Right.
week, then we would have the opportunity to do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I would like to kind of schedule that stuff around those guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds
And weren't
good.
we gonna have Mike get the coaches' consensus, just to
Yeah.
make it
We're
easier?
working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to,
He's already circulated that.
I'd like to get Mike back in and have him do his presentation. There was a meeting at that we didn't have televised, so I'd
Right.
like to get that.
Oh, right, yeah.
Give people an opportunity to ask questions and stuff.
Definitely.
So, open that up.
All right, but just next week we'll just be dealing.
So next week will just be
with
with the, with Gail. We good?
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.